The White House projects a record 2009 deficit. Yes, a new record. The next president will inherit a new record budget deficit of at least $482 billion. That's just for 1 year. And it could even be much higher, actually. According to a new administration estimate released Monday, the administration said the deficit was being driven to an all-time high by the sagging economy and the stimulus payments being made to millions of households in an effort to keep, or supposedly to keep, the country from falling into a deep recession. Well, how's that going to work? How's that going to help? If you give people stimulus payments, but then put it on the national credit card, which adds even more interest. They'll have to pay even more interest on the national debt by putting it on the national credit card. No, that's only a temporary fix, like putting a band-aid. It's like a band-aid, yes. But the numbers, they go even higher if the economy performs worse than the White House predicts, which is very likely. A $482 billion deficit would easily surpass the record deficit of $413 billion set in 2004. The deficit numbers for 2000 and 2009 represent at least 3% in the size of the economy, which is the measure seen as most relevant by economists. The administration actually, though, underestimates the deficit by a lot, since it leaves out at least another $80 billion in war costs. I don't understand. Why isn't that included? Or is that just to make the numbers? Oh, I see. It's not telling the truth, is it? No, not at all. In a break from tradition, and in violation of new mandates from Congress, the White House, of course, did not include its full estimate of war costs. Just don't tell anybody. Let the next administration deal with the war and the war costs and everything, all the consequences that are to come of everything the president that we have now has done. And yes, he is a bad man. The White House. The White House is not doing, they're not telling the truth. What else is new? The new figures are so eye-popping in dollar terms that it may restrain the appetite of the next president to add to it with expensive spending programs or new tax cuts. In fact, America, the United States, is in a lot of trouble. John McCain used the news to slam the White House for its massive spending. Obama's campaign used the new numbers to attack McCain for embracing the president's tax cuts. Obama, said campaign policy director Jason Furman, will restore balance and fairness to our economy by cutting wasteful spending, shutting corporate loopholes and tax havens, and rolling back the BUSH tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, while at least trying to make health care affordable and putting a middle-class tax cut in the pocket of 95% of workers and their families. The deficit for 2007 totaled $161.5 billion, which represented the lowest amount of red ink since an imbalance of $159 billion in 2002. The 2002 performance marked the first budget deficit after 4 consecutive years of budget surpluses. In other words, the present White House administration inherited a budget surplus from the Clinton administration, and they have done their very best to blow it and to waste it and to throw it all away and to ruin this country, to bankrupt this country. That's what the present White House administration has done. And yes, it will get worse. That stretch of budget surpluses represented a period when the country's finances had been bolstered by a 10-year period of uninterrupted economic growth, the longest period of expansion in U.S. history. In his first year in office, helped considerably by projections of continuing surpluses, or whatever, BUSH drove through a 10-year, $1.35 trillion package of tax cuts. However, the country quickly fell into recession in March 2001, and government spending to fight the so-called war on terrorism contributed to pushing the deficit to a record in dollar terms in 2004. And now it's just more than ever before. And the total national debt of the United States is now pushing past $10 trillion, with a huge interest payment on it every year. Who's going to pay for all this? How is it going to be paid? Or is this being left to the future generations to come to have to deal with? No, that is not good. House Budget Committee Chairman John Spratt, Democrat, South Carolina, said the new deficit figure confirms the dismal legacy of the current administration. Under its policies, the largest surpluses in history have been converted or squandered. They have been converted into the largest deficits in history ever. Yes, they have bankrupted this country, or they will bankrupt this country, for the economy is getting worse. It's falling into recession and could even fall into a depression because the debts and the bills are coming due. And as the economy worsens, well, that makes everything a lot worse, a lot harder to do, isn't it? Yep, that's the end of the surpluses. Anyway, these are all more signs of the end times, transition days. And there are many, many signs.